I'm Adam.
And I'm Sunny.
And this is Where There's a Williams, There's a Way. Hey, Sunny, do you know what Juneteenth is?
It's the day we celebrate the end of slavery in the United States.
That's right. June 19th, 1865 is when the news of freedom finally reached the last enslaved people in Texas.
It must have been a huge relief, just like when I found out I didn't have to share my cheese with all 217 of my siblings.
It's quite a big family, Sonny. Speaking of which, did you know that on Juneteenth, many families come together to celebrate with food, music, and dancing?
Sounds like our family reunion, except instead of dancing, we mostly just squeak and nibble on snacks.
That's a unique way to celebrate. Juneteenth is also a time to reflect on freedom and equality.
We reflect too, mostly on how to get the best piece of cheese without getting caught.
Maybe we can all learn from you, Sonny. On Juneteenth, let's remember to share, appreciate freedom, and maybe even share a cheese.
Sharing cheese? Now that's revolutionary.
Today's book talks about the history of Juneteenth and how every year people all over the United States come together on June 19th to celebrate the end of slavery. Join in the celebration of Juneteenth, a day to remember and honor freedom for all people. Let's get started. Juneteenth by Vaunda Micheaux Nelson and Drew Nelson. Illustrations by Mark Schroder. Jubilee. It is June 19, 1865, a hot day in Texas. Clouds commemorate the bright blue sky. On a farm outside the city of Galveston, a man hoes corn. 5 miles away, a teenage boy chops wood. Nearby, a woman scrubs the floor. Her sister milks a cow in the barn. It seems like a normal day. Then a message arrives in Galveston. It races from ear to ear through town. The message is carried to the countryside by riders on horseback. It is carried by wagon and by people on foot. The people on foot are running because the message is so important. When the news reaches the man in the cornfield, tears roll down his cheeks. 5 miles away, the young woodcutter plants his axe in a stump and runs to hug his father. Nearby, the woman stops scrubbing and dances across the wet floor. Her sister drops a bucket of milk and falls to her knees. As the news spread across Texas, people stopped working and jumped for joy. These men, women, and children were not ordinary workers. They were black slaves. The news that arrived on June 19th changed their lives forever. On that day, General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston. He read an order from President Abraham Lincoln. The order said that the slaves were free. This was good news, but it was old news. President Lincoln had given the order in 1863, but slaves in some places were not told right away. It took more than 2 years for the order to reach Texas slaves. When it finally did, the streets of Galveston rang with black voices shouting, "We're free! Free! Free!" Slavery. How did black people become slaves? Imagine that you are playing outside. Suddenly, you're captured in a net like an animal. You're packed in the bottom of a ship with many other stolen people. You're taken far away to another country. You're forced to stand naked on a platform called an auction block. A man pays money for you. He owns you now. You are his slave. You must do everything he says, and he can do whatever he wants to you. He can make you work. He can put chains on you. He can whip you, even kill you, and never again see your home or family. Beginning in 1619, these things happened to millions of African people. They were taken to North America and to other places as slaves. Why did Americans want slaves? Some people in the North wanted housekeepers and farmhands. Many Southerners needed people to work on their plantations. Plantations were huge farms for cotton, tobacco, corn, and other crops. Plantation owners sold these crops to make money. The owners could keep more money if they did not have to pay the people who worked for them. They did not pay slaves. War, 1861 to 1865. Not everyone wanted slavery. Many people in the North and some in the South wanted to free the slaves. They knew that slavery was wrong, and they spoke against it. They believed that all people are created equal. Most Southerners did not want slavery to end. Without slaves, who would pick their crops and chop their wood, who would cook their meals and clean their houses. Also, many white people believed they were better than black people. They believed that blacks were not equal, so slaves did not deserve to be free. Northern leaders would not give up, and the southern state would not give in. Finally, a group of southern states decided they could no longer be part of the United States. They broke away and formed the Confederate States of America. Now the country was divided into two parts, the Confederacy in the south and the Union in the north. On April 12, 1861, armies from the two sides began to fight. This was the start of the Civil War. Freedom. On January 1, 1863, President Lincoln signed a special order called the Emancipation Proclamation. It said that slaves in the Confederate States were forever free. Many plantation owners did not tell their slaves about President Lincoln's order. They wanted the slaves to keep working. Even when the owners knew that the South would lose the war, they wanted one more free harvest. But Union soldiers brought the news to slaves as the troops moved through the South. Those slaves spread the word to others. Thousands of freed slaves joined the Union Army to help win the war. Do you know what the Emancipation Proclamation was?
Is it when you get a proclamation that you're finally free from doing chores?
Close, but it's a bit more important. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued by President Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War.
So did he free a lot of kids from having to do their chores?
Not exactly. He declared that all slaves in the Confederate States were set to be free.
Wow, that's way better than no more chores. So did everyone celebrate?
Well, it wasn't that simple. The proclamation didn't immediately free all the slaves, but it was a crucial step toward ending slavery.
Oh, like when my mom says no more snacks, but we still have to finish the ones we already have?
Sort of. It was a promise that change was coming, and it gave hope to millions of enslaved people.
Got it. So Abraham Lincoln was like the ultimate chore buster for America.
You could say that. He worked hard to clean up a big mess.
Well, if he ever needs help, I've got 217 siblings ready to pitch in.
That's quite a workforce. Let's hope history never needs that many mice. Some Texas slaves heard tales about freedom, but they couldn't be sure these stories were true. Slaves had to be careful. Even if they talked about freedom, their owners might punish them. Slaves who tried to leave the plantations would be whipped or killed. All they could do was wait and hope. Finally, in April 1865, the Union won the Civil War. More than 700,000 people from the North and the South had died fighting in the war. On June 19th, Union General Granger brought the news of freedom to Galveston. Texas was the last state where the official announcement was made. Slaves no more. Not everyone believed the announcement. More than 200 years had passed since Africans were first captured and brought to North America. By 1865, most slaves in North America had been born here. The only life they knew was slavery. Then in an instant they were free. Once slaves knew the truth, they stopped working. The moment was scary and wonderful. They were free. They laughed and cried and shouted and prayed. They danced and sang, gathered and hugged. They imagined their lives as free Americans. Some former slaves left the plantations with just the clothes on their backs. They didn't know where they were going. They were happy just to be free to go anywhere. Many searched for loved ones who had been sold to other plantations. Some were reunited with their families. Others never found their parents or children. Some former slaves found jobs in cities. Others could not because white people wouldn't hire them. Many stayed on plantations because they had nowhere else to go. The slaves were free, but black Americans would struggle for equal rights for a long time. Still, the end of slavery brought great joy and a reason to celebrate. Juneteenth. On June 19, 1866, 1 year after they had learned of their freedom, former slaves came together to celebrate. The city of Galveston was alive with music. The sweet, smoky smell of barbecue filled the air. Black Texans were wearing their Sunday best. They gathered and hugged, they shared news and told stories. They sang spirituals celebrating freedom. No more slavery chains for me. No more, no more. Folks attended ceremonies, worship service, and parades to mark the day. This was the first of many June 19th celebrations in Texas, and when Black Texans moved to other states, they took the traditions with them. And how did June 19th become Juneteenth? At first, Texans called it Freedom Day, Emancipation Day, Jubilee, or simply June 19th. As years passed, the freedom stories were told and retold. June and 19th blurred together into Juneteenth. Today, Juneteenth is celebrated much like the first anniversary in 1866. People of all colors arrive at parks, churches, schools, and backyards for picnics. The sweet, smoky smell of barbecue fills the air. Potato salad, corn on the cob, biscuits, homemade ice cream, cakes, pies, and melons crowd the tables. Red velvet cake and red soda pop are traditional treats. Red honors all the people whose blood was shed in slavery and in the struggle for freedom. Festive parades fill city streets with music and dancing. Black cowboys and cowgirls clop through the town on horses. Miss Juneteenth waves from a decorated float. Folks stroll along singing songs of freedom and patriotism. Spirited baseball games bring whoops and hollers from excited fans. Foot races, sack races, and rodeos spark cheers and laughter. At the cakewalk, people clap their hands and tap their feet. Dancers turn and leap, strut, and quick step to win the grand prize, a delicious cake. Worship services and readings of the Emancipation Proclamation are important parts of Juneteenth. Speakers tell and retell stories of slavery and freedom. They share tales on why Texas slaves were last to get the news. One legend says that the first messenger sent with the proclamation was murdered along the way. Another story says he was given a very, very slow mule to ride. People laugh, but no one forgets the real reason for the late news. No one forgets that Juneteenth is not just a day to have fun. It is a time to remember. Juneteenth is celebrated in big or small ways almost everywhere in the United States. The government of Texas made it a state holiday on January 1st, 1980. From Florida to Alaska, California to New Jersey, other states across the nation have followed this example. Some people believe that June 19th should be a national holiday, like Thanksgiving or 4th of July. Wherever it is celebrated, Juneteenth is a time to sing praises for the end of slavery in the United States. Freedom Days. Americans have different ideas about when to celebrate the end of slavery. Some think it should be January 1st, the day that President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. Others feel that December 18th, 1865 was the true day. On this date, the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution became law. This amendment ended slavery in all the states. The Emancipation Proclamation freed slaves only in Confederate states. And there are people who honor the date when slaves were freed in their own state. Whatever date you choose, freedom is worth celebrating. A freedom song. No more auction block. No more auction block for me. No more, no more. No more auction block for me. Many thousands gone. No more slavery chains for me. No more, no more. No more slavery chains for me. Many thousands gone. No more captain's whip for me. No more, no more. No more captain's whip for me. Many thousands gone. No more auction block. No more auction block. No more auction block. Many thousands gone. New words. Amendment. A change to the United States Constitution. The Constitution explains the powers of the government and the rights of the people. Cakewalk. A dance contest with a cake as a prize. Civil War. War between groups of people who live in the same country. Emancipation. Freedom from slavery. Jubilee. A time of rejoicing, often a special anniversary. Patriotism. Being proud of one's country. Proclamation. A formal public announcement of important news. Red soda pop. Cherry or strawberry soft drinks. In early Juneteenth celebrations, people drank fresh lemonade with red food coloring added. Red velvet cake. Chocolate cake made with red food coloring. Spirituals. Religious folk songs of Black Americans. Everyone should be treated the same no matter what they look like. Right, Sonny?
Absolutely. I mean, my brothers and sisters all look different. Some of us are gray, some are white, and a couple even have spots. We still get along.
everyone should just have the same rights and opportunities, and no one should be judged by their fur or skin color.
Yeah, in my family, we don't care if someone has a longer tail or bigger ears, as long as they don't steal my cheese, we're cool.
That's right, Sonny. It's all about respect and fairness. And it would only be fair for you to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'm Adam.
And I'm Sunny.
And this is Where There's a Williams, There's a Way. Did you know strawberry soda pop was once a popular drink associated with celebrating Juneteenth?